What's up? Back again. Next episode of the Next Season podcast. So, in the first episode, we did some icebreakers and introductions, and I shared a little bit of background on my youth and high school days. And I wanted to share some stories about my college experience. So, we'll just jump right into it. So, it was August. Let's start with summer 2003. That's how old I am. All you young bucks out there. August 2003. I was getting ready for freshman year. So obviously we reported it, say sometime mid-August is when we reported, or maybe a week before the rest of the students came. The non-athletes came, the rest of the students came maybe a week later or so. I had a strong senior season in high school, a really solid summer. There was a lot of team success in the leagues that I played in. I was feeling confident. I was feeling really good mentally and physically as the freshman year approached. One of the leagues I played in was a Legion tournament. And we were playing, I don't remember where it was, but one of the last games, it had rained and I was trying to leg out a ground ball and I stepped on the base and I probably didn't get the front of the base enough and slipped on the base. And it's a weird play where there was kind of contact with the first baseman too. I think he was trying to pick it out of the dirt or something like that, but he was there and my leg slipped. Anyway, long story short, it hyperextended my leg and I felt a pop in my hamstring, actually right in the back of the knee. So it was this kind of weird spot between hamstring and calf where that meet. And I couldn't really isolate it because I didn't know if it was hamstring or calf, but it ended up, it was like one of those things where it's like, you felt a pop, but you're okay. At the same time, on my other knee, so that was my right leg, my left leg, on the knee, I hit the base or hit the ground really hard and it busted it up pretty good. And I'm getting a pretty nasty infection there. So this might be a TMI, but I'm just trying to paint the picture here. And that lingered for about 2 months to the point where even as I was like playing through my hamstring and calf issue, what really was more painful at the time for the first couple of weeks was the infection in my leg. And to the point where I ended up having to pull myself basically out of the outfield because I couldn't do the running and play first base. So yeah, it was weird. Clean your wounds, guys. Very important to take care. It does not make you less masculine or manly or anything like that to take care of your wounds. We need you on the field. So get that taken care of, get it cleaned out. I knew freshman season was approaching and I had a specific goal and target. And so I was a bit more motivated than I had normally been to get in the gym, to get stronger. And so I was doing what I could. I didn't have any trainers. I didn't really work with anybody specifically. I just figured it out on my own. But I was doing what I could to make a good impression and be in the best shape that I possibly could at that time. And it was frustrating because it's like now this, right? As we got ready for freshman season, they sent us information that said basically what you're going to expect in your first couple of days of physical conditioning tests and assessments and things like that. It was a pretty old school. Couple of examples, we had a 135 max bench. So how many reps you rep out of 135? And it was their full gamut. There were some kids that had never benched before when they got there. And there were some that were studs and were repping out 40 or 50 reps, something like that, which for football, it's 225 on the bar. For baseball, we're not hitting that number. So it was 135. I guess some kids nowadays are, but not back then. And the other one that I remember was 20 60-yard sprints. And we did 20 of them and you had 30 seconds rest between. That did not go well for me. Very quickly, my leg, my hamstring strain or calf strain, whatever it was, the behind the knee strain crushed me. But I was too scared to tell my coaches, right? I didn't want to be that kid that showed up right away and was like, hey, coach, I'm the new guy here and preferred walk on, but I can't run this. And I also, the downside is then it's okay. He's not fast. So it was not a good experience. And you're trying to get to know your teammates and you're trying to make a good impression with them too. That was the first impression. That was the first couple of days of college. And so we get into fall season and just like it is, plenty of more typical bumps and bruises and struggles. And so some of the struggles I had in high school, a lot of times you can get away with poor mechanics. In college, and as you go up in levels, you start to get exploited. And that's what happened to me. When I got through high school based upon talent and I coasted. And so I got to college and started to face some higher levels of competition, some better breaking balls, some better off-speed stuff. The game's faster, and I lost my way. Defensively, I was fine, but there was very limited hard contact at the dish, and my swing fell apart. And even after my leg healed up, I just didn't feel comfortable. And it wasn't just on the field. I wasn't focusing in the classroom. I felt a lot of anxiety. I felt uncomfortable in a lot of social situations and social settings. It was just a very big transition that so many student athletes and so many college students and ball players experience. The first half of the year, going into the end of the first semester, I get home at winter break and I'm just like, I was frustrated. I was angry. I was unhappy. I think at that point was probably one of the first times I thought about giving it up. But I was like, no, obviously I'm not going to do that. Get into the spring season. And I knew I wasn't going to play a whole lot. I was getting most of my reps at that time in right field. I had a decent arm and I could run the ball down pretty good. Freshman year, the starting right fielder was a senior and was the all-time hits leader at the time of the school. So I knew I wasn't going to play a whole lot, but I did get in some defensive replacements late in the game. Obviously, there's some blowouts, things like that. Got a handful of at-bats. It was a typical freshman. It wasn't a red shirt, but it was a low playing freshman year. And that was the first time that I was really on the bench that much. And it was a gut check. So again, not uncommon for a freshman, but I knew that I was better than what I was showing. And I knew that there were opportunities that were available if I was able to step up that I missed. I missed those opportunities. So I remember my freshman year of college, and not just the spring season, but really the entire year, just feeling lost. I tell people, I felt like I was a vegan at a barbecue joint, and I'm not judging or commenting on dietary choices or lifestyle choices or anything like that. I'm just simply acknowledging that I was highly uncomfortable. The pressure was a lot. It wasn't fun. Obviously I had fun. I got to meet some great friends. We had incredible times traveling up and down the East Coast and doing a bunch of stuff. But from a baseball perspective, it wasn't fun. By late in the spring, I stopped focusing so much on mechanics and just started focusing a little bit more on mindset. When I was in high school, I know I said I didn't really have any trainer. Early, I was probably 15 or 16. I got linked up with it was a pro scout and USA Baseball, he's a coach for USA Baseball, and he lived about an hour or hour and a half away. And I got a chance to connect with him and meet with him and train with him a little bit. And it wasn't a whole lot that came out of it. But one of the things, and it's just a great person who poured into me at a point in my life where I needed it, but also at a point in my life where I didn't fully appreciate it. But to this day, I think about him a lot and just appreciate what he did for me and what he did for I know what he's done for a lot of athletes. And he was one of the first exposures I had to the mental side of baseball. And I remember a couple things. I remember laying outside of his office in his hall and him walking me through a meditation. And that was the first time I meditated. I remember getting a focus matrix, what I call the focus matrix, which is the grid. The focus grids are concentration grids that you see a lot of times. That was my first exposure to a concentration grid, or what I call a focus matrix. And I remember I would look at that. I remember late in my freshman year, probably halfway through the season, I called him and I was just struggling. And I called him one night from my dorm room and I was just like, here's what I'm experiencing. And he probably stayed on the phone with me for an hour and taught me through it. That was the first person who really exposed me, like I said, to the mental game of baseball, the mental side of baseball. In a conversational way, in a coaching way, not just a book that I put on the shelf and hardly read. So I should reach out. I should get him on the podcast. I should definitely get him on the podcast. That'd be a fun one. We'll make that happen. So all of that pressure, like I said, it wasn't fun. But at that point, I started to let go of some of the mechanical stuff and the trying to fix everything and just focusing on mindset. And things started to turn around. It wasn't overnight, but in retrospect, it was pretty powerful. It was pretty significant. And so by the time the season ended and I went into the summer, I was having fun again. I got back around the guys I grew up with. We had some summer league, some wood bat league that we could play in. And I was hitting again. I was strong. I was healthy. Leg was healed up. Shoulder felt good. I felt good. And I knew that I had opportunity going into my sophomore year. That senior was obviously out of school now. He's graduating. And there was opportunities for me to play. but I was still naive. And I still didn't really know what I was in for. And I think that's probably enough for this conversation. I want to try to keep these conversations brief, 10, 15, 20 minutes. We'll leave it at that. But the next time we're here, we'll dig into sophomore year and we'll talk about that a little bit. So see you next time. Peace.